Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle May Curry, and I am the curator on staff at the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. And you are here for the second of three workshops that we're hosting this year for the FY26 Art Bank program. I'm going to have the CAH staff on the call also introduce themselves. Louisa, want to go first?
Hi, I'm Louisa Hammond. I'm the assistant registrar on staff. So all these wonderful artworks that then get brought into the collection, I oversee their installation and loan out to DC government agencies where they are displayed.
Ron?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Humbertson. I'm the Art Collections Registrar. So I, along with Louisa, oversee the Art Bank Loan Program, as she suggested, as well as conservation projects, and also assist Michelle on special projects, including this grant program line. So welcome.
Vanessa. You there, Vanessa? Corinne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Corinne Miller. I lead the public arts team. Nice to see everyone.
And I'll let everyone know Vanessa Ackham's our public art program coordinator. Oh, there she is. Hi, Vanessa. Do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Yes. Greetings on this beautiful day, sunny and warm. Good to see everyone.
Awesome. So, and this is the team that touches every single part of the Art Bank program you're meeting today. I'm the grant manager who runs our Art Bank program, and I am your one-stop shop for all questions that you might have as you go through this grant application process. Louisa and Ron are also great resources that are they're great for asking questions that are particular to materials and things related to preservation at the time of acquisition. I am going to be walking us through an agenda today. You see on the screen here, we'll go over the program as a whole, its goals. We'll go over applicant eligibility as well as eligibility requirements related to the artwork that you're going to be submitting with your application. I'll go over the evaluation criteria that we use, that our jury panel uses to evaluate all applicant artwork. I'll go over the documents that you'll need to submit with your application. There's a number related to the artwork itself and describing yourself as an artist. And then there's a number of compliance documents that are specific to all CAH grant programs and one that's particular to our Art Bank program. We'll also go over some tips for preparing your application. If you're a first-time applicant, do not worry. We're going to walk you through every single part of applying for the first time. And we'll even do a live walkthrough of our grant portal so that you can see what the back end looks like, what buttons to press, what buttons can sometimes be a little tricky or faulty based on our grant applicant portal. And we'll have lots of time throughout for questions. We will be monitoring the chat as we're going through our workshop today, so please feel free to drop things in the chat.
Most people do compound
I'm
pharmacies.
going to mute folks. And if you, feel free to use the chat, but I'll be stopping throughout for you to get any of your questions answered. This is being recorded today, and you will have access to it. I'll send it out via email, and also send out the slides via email as well, so no need to take furious notes as I'm talking. Okay. First, we have a welcome message from our Executive Director, Aaron Myers. Just a quick hello, and thanks for attending.
Hello and welcome. I'm Aaron Myers, and I'm the Executive Director for the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities.
Oh.
We're excited to have you here to support you in the applications process related to our fiscal year 2026 grant programs. As a designated state art agency for the District of Columbia, Our mission is to support and uplift the artists, the humanities, professionals, and creative organizations, and the work you all do in all 8 wards, 52 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
These workshops and
Oh, one more.
live chats are designed to help you navigate the grant process, provide clarity on our requests for applications, or RFAs as you know them, and ensure you have the support you need to submit a competitive application. We're here to answer your questions and share guidance. So your journey, whether it's your first time or returning applicant, is for you to be successful. So thank you for joining us. And once again, welcome.
So Aaron Myers is our fearless leader. He's often out in the community saying hello, attending events, getting to know grantees. So if you see him out and about, please say hello. He's a very friendly face in the arts community in DC. So before we move on, I just also wanted to flag 2 links for you that you can browse as I'm talking. One on the left side is our Art Bank e-museum, which you can find at dcarts.emuseum.com. And it's where all of our Art Bank collection lives virtually. So you can browse this website to get a feel for our collection. And you can even browse by acquisition year to see who and what we acquired in the last couple years. On the right is a link to our YouTube page. The channel is called DC Arts, and this is where you can find all of our workshop links as well as specific programming that we've done to support applicants and artists in the DC Arts community to navigate our grants process and to navigate their career as artists. So feel free to check those out. Okay, so to give a little rundown of the Art Bank program as a whole. So the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities acquires fine art from metropolitan artists in order to grow a fine art collection, which we call the Art Bank collection. And we define a metropolitan artist, in this case, as artists living within a 50-mile radius of DC. The artwork in this collection is then part of a loan program and is loaned out to DC government agencies for display in public areas and offices of government buildings. Louisa and Ron are going to go into further detail about what that loan program looks like, so I won't steal their thunder, but it's a really robust program that we use to support our public art ecosystem in the district. It's a long-standing program. We're coming up on 40 years of the collection. Started in 1986, and it has over 3,000 works in the collection. And then it's a grant award program, and that's how we acquire artwork into our collection. So total grant awards cannot exceed $15,000 for individuals and $25,000 for nonprofit organizations who are also eligible for applying to this program. This year, we are only acquiring 1 artwork per individual artist. In the case of nonprofit arts organizations who are applying, we're able to acquire more than 1 artwork so we are only able to acquire 1 artwork per artist who is acquired under that nonprofit arts organization. We're going to go in further into detail about what that looks like, what these numbers mean. We've recently changed them this year in order to account for the changing prices in the art market, and also noting that we haven't increased these grant amounts in some time. So previously we acquired up to $10,000 per artwork, and now we've increased it to $15,000 for individuals, and then $25,000 instead of $20,000 for nonprofit arts organizations. So this program, the Art Bank program, has a few goals. They're all overlapping. The first is to grow the district's fine art collection. And we want a collection that reflects the rich and diverse artistic history and community of the District of Columbia and the metropolitan region. It's a really rich arts community, and this Art Bank collection uniquely celebrates that history. Second, we want to provide support and exposure and professional development to visual artists in the region. We take pride in being one of the first stops and one of many stops along the way for artists in getting acquired into permanent collections. We acquire emerging artists and established artists, and our first acquisition in 1986 was a Sam Gilliam piece, and that's something that we're super proud of. Third and finally, we seek to enhance the aesthetic experience for district employees and visitors that access DC government buildings. When you walk into a DC government building anywhere across the district, you're going to encounter the Art Bank collection. It's a beautiful way of supporting the arts community and also just bringing color, spirit, and life into DC government employees' lives. I'm going to pass the baton to Louisa now, who's going to give you a rundown of what that process looks like as it comes into our collection and out into the arts community.
Yeah, so as Michelle was saying, the goal of this program, one of the main goals is loaning this artwork out to district government agencies. But before that, we walk through kind of the life cycle of these pieces after we acquire them. So we are fully cataloging everything that comes into the collection. As Michelle pointed out, the e-museum is kind of a record of all the artworks in our collection. And we are cataloging everything, measuring, writing the dimensions, identifying any things of note on the pieces, so that we have a full catalog record that really tells us a lot about the piece and the artists as well, if possible. And then in order to have these works on display, we are framing all of them to make sure that they are safely hung up. We have a very standard framing process. So all artwork that comes into the collection will be reframed, even if it is already framed when it comes in. So if you have something and you bring it in and it's framed for the DC Art Now show, that exhibition framing will be returned to you if requested, because we will have kind of our standard framing that we use, because we're hanging these pieces in offices together with multiple other pieces. We want to have some kind of cohesion. So we use the practice of these white frames that are not too distracting from the artwork itself. And we use all archival materials with OP3, UV filter, and plexiglass, and archival mat board and things like that. In addition, wall-mounted artwork that can't fit within a kind of standard frame will also be mounted in a shadow box with a plexi cover. So we'll have some pictures of that in the next slide so you can see what that looks like. But either way, this artwork is going to be in some kind of frame or protected space. Additionally, sculptures also will be on pedestals that have a plexi cover. And the reason this is because we are placing all these things in different government offices, people that maybe aren't used to having art. We want to ensure that people aren't just coming up and touching artwork that might not know. So this is kind of our way to ensure that the collection lasts as long as possible. So in addition to that, we have artwork stored when it's not on display, stored in a temperature and climate controlled storage vault. You can see some images there on the second row of what they look like in our storage. And then finally, we are constantly just checking in on the collection and doing a regular inspection to see that things are holding up and monitoring for signs of damage. And if any conservation needs to be done, then we will do conservation efforts as well. As Michelle said, the collection goes back, almost 40 years. So some of those works have been in that collection that long, and some materials start to degrade. Things are out on display a lot. So we do have some conservation that needs to be done. So that's just kind of an overview of how we care for the collection and what happens when it first comes in. And then we'll move on to the next slide.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, Jackie.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm going to
Sorry.
mute it.
Okay. So the main goal of this collection is this loan program that we oversee. And this is a very unique opportunity where the district agencies are able to have artwork in their offices. So we are taking these kind of, you know, slightly bland, boring office buildings and bringing them life and bringing some art into them, which is really exciting. And people are always very excited to come and select artwork for their office spaces. So the way this process works is that these agencies and council offices reach out to us and inquire, saying we would like some artwork. Either they're moving to a new office or it's a whole new team. They moved into people in this office are like, I don't know where this art came from, but we want something new, we want something fresh. We have a whole new team working with us, or oftentimes they're moving to new office buildings and starting from scratch. So they reach out to us and we invite them to come view our art bank storage and view all the available artwork. So most of the artwork is actually continuously on loan. I think it's over 92% of the collection is actively already on view in one agency or another or council offices. So it's rotating, obviously, because some things come back, but most of it is out on loan. So the small amount that we have in our storage unit is what people can come and see and select from. And these offices are coming in with, a wide range of requests. So sometimes we get very thematic requests where they have, someone will come in with a very specific vision for what they want the office to look like. And they're thinking both in terms of the people that work there, but also the people that might come and receive services from those offices. So, for example, Office of Planning, who recently came, they were looking for very DC specific themes and representation. So very recognizable buildings, areas of the city, monuments, anything that really, screamed DC and planning. Whereas we had other agencies, for example, Deputy Mayor Education, we're looking more for artwork that had children, sports, recreation, things like that represented. So you have to think about the diversity of the agencies that we have. So there's many different district government agencies that provide a range of services, and they're all looking for very different things. And sometimes, we also get requests of people that don't have much of a background in fine art and might just be saying like, I just want something colorful. We work in a dark office space. There's not that many windows. We just want to bring some color and life and something for people to look at, when they're walking around. So it's a wide range, which helps it. We have such a wide collection to fill those needs. And then finally, just a little bit about the installation. So the artwork is placed mostly in public and semi-private areas. So, reception areas, hallways, conference rooms, community rooms, and directors' offices. We'll install everything with a gallery label that will identify the artist and title and medium. And then, as you can see here in all these different pictures as well, it's a range of what the spaces will look like. So these are office buildings. They're not always designed to, provide the best lighting or space for art, but we do our best to make sure that the artwork is highlighted as best it can, but fits within the space. So you can see, sometimes we're working with rugs of different colors and furniture and exit signs and fire safety equipment. So we have to work around that, but we ensure that the artwork shines as best as possible in these spaces, and it really does help beautify the spaces. So I think we have one more slide with just a little bit more images of examples. Here you can see some of those examples of those plexi boxes I was talking about. So on the lower the second row, the second picture and the last picture, you can see, the artwork that sticks out from the wall that has this plexi cover and then just a neutral background. And then you can see here some examples of, some of these office spaces, some of these private office spaces with windows, reception areas. An example here on the first row, you can see what a sculpture looks like on a pedestal. So you really get a sense of the variety of spaces we install and how the artwork looks in those spaces.
Okay, thank you so much, Louisa. And Louisa and Ron are often out and about on installs. This is a very active collection, and so the artwork is loved and touched and on display. So, getting into some of the specifics of this program, I'm going to talk a little bit about applicant eligibility for both individuals and nonprofit organizations. So these are specific to individuals here. You must be an artist or artist representative, meaning that you are the head of the artist estate or the representative of the artist estate. You have to be 18 or older. You have to be a legal resident of DC or living within a 50-mile radius of DC's boundaries for at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. You must maintain your residency in this 50-mile radius during the funding year. And our funding year is from October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026. You have to have a permanent DMV address, DC, Maryland, Virginia address, that as it's listed on your ID or tax returns. That means no PO boxes can be listed. It has to be a place of permanent residence. And then you have to be in good standing with the Arts Commission, which means that you don't have any delinquent reports based on prior grants that you've received. So for people who are new to this process, this would not apply to you. For organizations, there's a couple additional requirements for eligibility. You have to be a 501c3 dated at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. You must be a nonprofit arts organization or gallery, and your reason for being is that you're representing artists living in the metropolitan area. You have to have a principal business address in DC and register to do business in DC. A majority of your activities must be within DC, should have a board of directors, and then there's a few things that you can't be, such as a college or university, a service organization, foreign government, can't be DC public schools. And then again, you have to be in good standing with CAH, so no delinquent reports. So that is applicant eligibility. There's a number of eligibility requirements for the artwork that you are submitting. So for this application, you are able to submit up to 3 artworks for consideration. This has changed from our usual 5 artworks and has gone down to 3 artworks due to the demand on this program. We've seen skyrocketing applications in the last few years, and in order to support our jurors in being able to review in a timely and, full manner, we've changed that number to 3 artworks. This number is different for nonprofit arts organizations. These organizations are allowed to submit up to 10 artworks from any combination of 2 or more artists. The artwork itself should be from a recent body of work. We define that as within 10 years, created within 10 years of the submission, or the artwork must be significant to the history of the visual art of the district. So we define significant in a few different ways. It might be depicting a significant moment in DC history or a significant location in DC. Let's say you are depicting the demolition of RFK Stadium. We see that as a significant moment in DC history. Let's say you were a photographer at the March on Washington. We see that as a significant moment in DC history. It might also be that you yourself are a significant artist within DC arts history, and you are suggesting that acquiring work from a particular moment in your artistic career that is from before 10 years or 10 years older, then that is a significant acquisition for us. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have that are specific to this eligibility requirement, but we note that it helps especially to note this in your application materials. If you're submitting something that is from 1989, right? You say, I'm submitting a work from 1989, and I'm doing so because it provides a significant window into X history or X part in my career. The artwork itself should be made of archival materials that are sustainable for a permanent collection. Again, if you have questions about whether your work is using proper materials for our collection, you can stay on after this session, or you can email me and CC Louisa and Ron, who are happy to answer any questions you have that are specific to materials. The artwork, we have size requirements for our artwork. It shouldn't exceed 72 inches in any direction. And the sculptures that you submit should not exceed 36 inches in height or 24 inches in width or depth. We also have weight requirements. So wall-mounted artwork should not exceed 60 pounds, and any sculpture, freestanding sculpture, should not exceed 100 pounds. Again, sculpture is going to be displayed on a wall or a pedestal and will be covered with a vitrine, which means that we require that there's no more than 6 inches extension from the wall. And we have this requirement because in DC government buildings, in high traffic areas, we're aware of ADA compliance in hallways, and we're aware that we don't want damage to come to any artwork that's protruding too far out from the wall. This can sometimes be a tricky one for artists, this next bullet point. The artwork must be available for acquisition at the time of submission. So you should not be submitting work that is in somebody else's collection, for one. You should not be submitting work that is currently in a museum exhibition, and you won't be able to get the artwork to us in time for us to review it. If you are able to get the art, if it's currently in some display that is away from you and you're able to get it to us for review, that is something that we can work on, but it needs to be available for acquisition, for purchase. And then for organizations and nonprofit applicants, the artwork from artists must meet all of the individual eligibility requirements, which means that artists that you are submitting should live within a 50-mile radius of DC. And we do that, again, in order to ensure that we are funding artists and organizations that have a tie to DC. And then finally, the work itself must be priced at $15,000 or less. I'll say one more thing about pricing of artwork. The artwork pricing should match any already listed pricing that you have for that artwork on your websites and any publicly available space. So let's say that you are submitting the work to us and pricing it at $5,000, but previously or on your website currently, you have the artwork listed at $2,000. We are going to take note of that, and we do our research at the time of review. There's also a list of prohibited materials for acquisition, all listed here. And I want to make note of that square in the top right corner, that if you'd like to have a conversation about any materials that you're using, we want to be sensitive to all cultural art forms, any questions that you have, particularly around perishable materials or materials that are tied to your national or ethnic racial culture in some way. We're happy to take a review at those. But some of the materials that are currently prohibited from our collection include bound books, living plant materials such as soil, preserved or live insects or animals, any raw food items, including fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, beans, any liquids, any electricity, anything that requires electricity. So unfortunately, we cannot ensure that the artwork that you bring in that requires electricity can be plugged into the wall in the place that it's mounted. So we just say no, no work that requires electricity. And then a few other prohibited materials such as firearms, flammable toxic materials, anything that mists or vapors. And you know, this list may sound exhaustive, but it exists for a reason because we've had folks submit across all of these categories. Okay, I'm going to pause here briefly and see if anyone has questions about artwork eligibility or applicant eligibility or any of the art loan program pieces that we've gone over, any of the program goals at this point. Yes, I see a hand raised. Sana.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Hi. So my question was about
Sana, you've
the
broken up.
framing. So a part of sorry. Oh, let me go upstairs. So a lot of my artwork, the frame is actually a part of the work. So like I have one that's like a TV screen that the frame is a part of the actual work. So I'm curious, like, would you put that TV screen inside of a frame or would you try to remove the TV screen frame? Like, I'm just curious about some of the pieces that I wanted to submit that the frame is actually built to be a part of the artwork.
Louisa and Ron, do you want to take on that one?
Yeah, I can take that on. So if your artwork is actually created with the frame, then we would consider that part of the entire piece. So your work would be still framed, but in the clear plexi shadow box that would cover it all as a complete work of art. So we will not remove the frame if it's part of the piece.
Okay, thank you. And what was the width, the depth of the materials? If we have like it's not a sculpture, it's a painting, but what is the depth? Because a lot of my mantle pieces, the depth is like 5 to 8 inches from the wall. So what is the depth on that?
We try to keep it under 6 inches if possible. Because then we have to also add like a frame on top of it. So it kind of, we don't get too close to the ADA compliance. So we say 6 inches to be safe.
Okay, thank you.
Jane, I see a hand from you.
Hey, actually, I have two questions.
Sure.
One is, I'm new to this. This
Awesome.
sounds more like a sale or a purchase than a grant. So maybe I'm not understanding the difference. What is the difference?
So we are acquiring your artwork permanently, and we run that acquisition process through a grant program.
Okay, that's where it came. Okay. The other is I looked at an attachment that you sent me, and one of the first paragraphs, which I strongly applaud, was a dedication to DEI. And the current administration doesn't support that. Is there any chance you could lose funding?
We currently have an Office of Racial Equity. We have an Office of LGBTQ Affairs. We have heard nothing that would indicate that that will change. The funding is unclear to us. We have the same information that you do. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Any
you.
additions to that, CH team? Nothing. Okay. I see a couple questions in the chat. Are video works eligible? Unfortunately not. We don't have the ability to display video works because that would require us to display a TV monitor, and that would require us to purchase a TV monitor, and we would have to have connection to an outlet, which we don't always have the ability to have in DC government buildings. So unfortunately, no video works. I have a question in the chat. Does that mean I cannot add to my original submission? I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding the context of your question. If you want to reframe it, Audra.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, hi.
Okay, I could not figure out how to raise my hand. My apologies.
Okay, no problem.
So that was my question. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correct of what you were saying about what you submit, your submissions, and of course you were saying it couldn't be someone else's, all of that. That's where I was at with that. When you say submission, Are you talking about application submission or when we actually bring you the work?
So when you submit the artwork in your application, you are just submitting JPEG images of the artwork. That the process in the first round is a virtual process where the jury is reviewing your artwork asynchronously. There is a second round of the jury panel process if the jury wants to see your work in person. We call it the finalist round, and we ask the finalist applicants to bring in their artwork for in-person review. So the artwork needs to be eligible for acquisition to bring in for that review stage, which happens in August. So it has to be available at that time.
Oh, okay. So if
Yeah.
I'm looking at the application now, going to do everything I need on it, I have till August to have the original work for you.
To have the
Is that
original work
to
available
submit?
for bringing in person. The work has to be created at the time of submission, though. So you can't
Ah,
submit like plans for the work. The jury has to review the work as it is going to be brought
gotcha.
in.
Gotcha. So it needs to be something I'm already done when I submit the application.
Exactly, already in
Yeah.
existence. Yeah,
Okay, I better not make anything I like better, then I'm going to be all confused. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
no problem. Denise, I see you have a question.
Hi, you guys.
Hi, Denise.
I love the commission.
We love you.
Hi, Ron. So anyway, there's two things. One, I'm kind of verklempt that we're opening it up to Maryland, Virginia, because of, they are states and they have funding and all of that. But yeah, and I was concerned, like the other person was saying about the funding and all that, and really standing staunch on the DEI initiative. So, I really love you guys. The other thing is that I've been in art bank. I think I have like 3 or 4 pieces in art bank. And I wanted to say to people who are just coming in is that the staff is so supportive and they're really, really good people. And so the application process is made easier because the staff is really attentive and all of that. The experience of walking into somewhere and having your artwork sitting there is like somewhat surreal. Because even when I worked down at the council, I walked in the council member's office and my stuff was sitting there. And I said, that looks familiar. I'm like, wait a minute, that's my stuff. So it's really a surreal thing. So the staff is really, really cool. The application process, as far as I'm concerned, is somewhat easy. The only thing, I think the only big thing is getting clean hands, because you have to clean hands with the district. And then, making sure that your stuff is uploaded. So I just wanted to say that, to everybody, as a person who's personally gone through it a number of times. So, and I just want to say hello. So that's it. Thank
You're
you.
warming my heart. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those kind words. It is one of the best parts of my job working on this program, if not the best part of my job working on this program. And it's a beautiful process seeing it through, even the paperwork stages. Any other questions? Before we
I
move on?
see another, I think
Oh, I
Sonia's
see.
hand, and there's another question in the chat.
Yes. The question in the chat, are artworks dealing with difficult or sensitive topics typically acquired given that the work goes into government office environments? This is a great question. I think there's a couple ways of answering it. DC government agencies work on sensitive and difficult topics every single day. The work of public service is to support artists and people through, you name it, we do it. And so artwork that reflects difficult or sensitive topics is, of course, welcome into our collection. I can think of works that depict health crises, mental health crises, death, um, childhood trauma. But I'll say also that we install work in public space. So the work itself should be fitting for any range of viewers, from adolescent child to adult. So in that way, one of the evaluation criteria is that the work should be suitable for public display in a DC government building. We don't define that, what that means beyond that statement. And so I hope that answers your question. Does anyone from our team want to add to that? Do you feel?
Yeah, just that going back to the agencies, it really depends. Like Michelle said, we do have art that covers those topics, and you'll have someone come in and say, "Wow, that's amazing! Like I want that, front and center." So it deals with something that we work on, and then other people, like I said, agencies that come in and say, we work in things that are hard enough. We really just want something a little bit more just pretty or colorful or light to look at. So it's the same way that everyone has their preferences of art. It depends what people come in with to look for. And like we said, there's a large variety of people and agencies, so that we get it all.
Sanaa, I see that you have a question. Your hand raised. Sanaa,
Oh,
are you
sorry,
there?
I just forgot to put my hand down.
Oh, no problem. Okay. I see a couple questions in the chat. Is more than one artwork by a single artist acquired in the same cycle? So this is new as of this year. We are only acquiring one artwork per artist, per cycle. So one caveat to that is that we acquire diptychs, triptychs, works that are meant to be shown together, that are all a part of one artwork. We do acquire, but no works in a series can be collected, or 2 or 3 pieces from an artist cannot be collected in 1 year. I'm seeing a question about pricing. Is there a minimum you recommend or a price point that seems too low? How significantly does pricing factor into consideration? Great questions. The pricing of the artwork is entirely dependent on the artist's discretion. We have some resources that can help with pricing your artwork. I know somebody might be able to drop it in the chat for support on that. But how significantly does pricing factor into consideration? At the jury stage, pricing does not factor in at the evaluation of the artwork. It only comes into play if we are acquiring more than one piece from that applicant. So in the case of a nonprofit organization where maybe we're acquiring 3 artworks from that organization, those artworks cannot total beyond $25,000 in funding. But it does not, the pricing only comes into consideration at the very final stage, at the curatorial stage when we're reviewing total budget. Hope that makes sense. Do you acquire small works, 11 by 14 and smaller? Yes, we do.
Michelle, this is Vanessa.
Yes.
I wonder if you could address why we accept applications from Virginia and Maryland relative to the cost of living in DC.
Sure. So we acquire within a 50-mile radius because we acknowledge that being a metropolitan artist does not mean that you have no ties to the DC arts community. Let's say you live in Mount Rainier, but your DC your artist studio is in DC, or you're a professor at American University in their art department, or you've been showing and living and contributing to the DC arts community your entire life. we consider you a part of the DC arts community, part of the DC art history. We also recognize that living in DC is expensive, and that many artists have been pushed outside of DC and live within a 50-mile radius of DC, but still have strong, bountiful ties to the DC arts community.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are the 3 art submissions judged as a group or individually? I have several artworks in different mediums of different locations in the DC area. They aren't of a cohesive group, but are significant works from my body of work. Will this impact the acceptance of my submission? So it's really up to the applicant to create an application that they think best represents the work that they want to submit. I'm just rereading your question. We often will see applications that fall on 2 sides of this. So sometimes applicants will submit a painting, a photograph, and a sculpture, right, to show how diverse their arts practice is. The jury will say, we love how eclectic and wide-ranging this applicant's artistry is. We love this sculpture. We'd love to acquire this sculpture. Sometimes the jury will say this application is lacking cohesion. I don't get a strong sense of who this artist is. I wish they had just submitted 3 photographs. On the other side of that, we've seen applicants who submit 3 paintings that all have the same view of a DC skyline, right, in different colors. And the jury will say, I wish I had seen from this artist a more diverse subject matter. Or I wish I would have seen this artist play with one, color palette across all of these landscapes, right? It really is up to the applicant to represent their work, and I hesitate to give any specific direction about how to create that cohesive application because jury panelists vary so much in how they review work. It is such a subjective process, which is to your benefit as an artist from year to year because you're going to get a completely different set of eyes and aesthetic tastes on your work. So in that sense, you can apply year to year and with different work or with the same work and get completely different results. I'm sorry that that's sort of a wishy-washy answer, but it's the best I can give you. Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. And please keep answering or please keep dropping your questions in the chat. We're together here for another 40 minutes, and I want to make sure we have time to get through the evaluation criteria, and then I'm going to pass the mic to our registrar team who will walk you through the application process. So there's 3 evaluation criteria that the jury uses to review your application. They have different weights. This first criteria is the largest percentage criteria in your application, and it's the aesthetic and conceptual strength of your work. So they're really looking at the aesthetic strength of the artwork. Is it visually impactful? Is it technically skillful? Is it inventive? Is it interesting? Does it stimulate the viewer? Does the artwork itself represent the artistic diversity within DC? Is it a beautiful individual expression of a DC artistry? So that's worth 50% of your application. The second criteria is artistic contribution. So this is where your materials, additional materials besides your artwork come into play. You're going to be submitting a resume, that lists your exhibition history or ties to different types of art activities in DC. You'll also be submitting a artist bio statement as well as an impact statement that discusses your relationship to the DC arts community. So the artistic contribution really looks at these materials, looks at your exhibition history within the metropolitan region. Does it include a diversity of collection-based work, of exhibition-based work, and we are excited to acquire work by artists who are more established in that way. Or, and this is a big or, if you are an artist who is early in their career, are emerging, or are just coming back to your practice after some time, we look at whether you are a highly promising emerging artist who would greatly benefit from inclusion into our collection. As I said at the beginning of our time together, we are really happy and excited to be a first stop along the way for artists in getting acquired into permanent collections. In your materials, you can note that you are on the emerging side of your arts career and are excited to grow within your art practice in DC. This is something we take so seriously that we require that 25% of our art acquisitions every year be from artists who are new to our collection to ensure that our collection is always growing beyond artists who are well collected in DC. Third and finally, we have value as a cultural asset as 30% of your criteria. So I mentioned that cultural impact statement where you're describing your significant relationship to the metropolitan arts community, the DC arts community. We look at your impact statement. We look at your exhibition history, your artist's work. We look at whether the work itself would be a fitting contribution to a municipal collection. So our municipal collection, again, tells a story about DC and DC arts history. And if your work has been collected by the Art Bank in the past, does the work that you have submitted and that we're hoping to acquire make a new contribution to this collection? So maybe you are an artist who has 6 works in our collection already, but they're all photographs of DC skylines or of particular parades across DC, and you are submitting some fine art photography that's more portrait-based. We would be really excited to see that new direction in your work, and that would be evaluated in this criteria. So the application materials that allow us to review your application alongside the 3 images of artwork that you're going to submit, you'll submit an artist statement that's 250 words or less that's describing your art making process and how the artworks that you've submitted relate to that art making process. So you'll want that artist statement to be tailored to this submission. You'll write an artist impact statement that represents how you are committed to the growth of the arts ecosystem in DC. You'll submit a resume that lists your exhibitions, any publications, commissions, collections, any relevant education that you have for this. You'll submit a image identification list, which is a document listing just the info that allows us to tie the image to the name and title, artist, year, dimensions, and price of the work. And then you'll submit high quality JPEG images. I want to really emphasize high quality in this case. Imagine you're a juror and you're reviewing hundreds of images of artwork. You want to be an applicant who has submitted an extremely high quality image that allows the artist or allows the juror to really review your work and digitally. There's also a number of mandatory compliance documents that you need to submit with your application. I'll go over each one and what they mean. The first one, as Denise noted, is a certificate of clean hands, which is a document that shows that you do not owe any money to the DC government in the form of taxes, fines, or unpaid parking tickets over a certain amount. This is a document that all applicants for DC government grants have to submit. It is not unique to this grant or this organization. It's something that if you live outside of the DC radius, live in Maryland or Virginia, you also will need to submit a certificate of clean hands showing that you don't owe any money to the DC government. And you can request a certificate of clean hands at the link in the chat that Vanessa just dropped in there. If you're a DC resident, it's a fairly quick process and you can receive it within the day that you request one. For Maryland and Virginia applicants, I would suggest requesting this document sooner rather than later, as sometimes it can take, a day or a week. And it's really unclear why that time is needed, but I would get on it ahead of time before you get to the end of our submission window. We recognize that owing funds to the district government can be a real impediment to application for a lot of artists, especially artists who might be lower income or struggling to pay any fines or taxes that they have. If this is you and you are really eager to apply to our program, there are ways that you can demonstrate that you've entered into a payment plan with the DC government that shows that you are working on getting this paid, and then they will give you a certificate of clean hands. The next document is a statement of certification. It's a document that's unique to the DC Arts Commission. It's just a document certifying that you agree to some terms and conditions of applying to CAH grant lines. It's a quick PDF. You sign and date, fill it out. The next is a W-9, which is a tax document that provides your name and address and social security number, or your EIN number if you're an organization or LLC. It has to be the 2024 version. This is new as of this year. It's just a new version of the W-9. And finally, this is a document that is unique to our Art Bank program, is an artwork relationship and copyright warranty form, which indicates that the artwork that the applicant is submitting is original artwork that they are submitting as the artist or as the artist representative. So this is our way of saying, we are not bringing in work that isn't original or isn't owned by the person who is submitting the application. There are some additional mandatory documents for organizations. One of them, which again is tied to the artwork copyright form, or in a similar vein to it, is that we want to ensure that all artists whose work is being submitted by the organization know that their artwork is being submitted and consent to you submitting it on behalf of the organization. So that's just a signed letter saying that you consent to your work being submitted. And then some additional tax compliance documents for organizations. So a letter of determination from the IRS, DC Tax Incorporation certificate, and their most recent 990. Okay, so I have just a couple additional tips for assembling all these materials. We know that this seems like a lot of materials to pull together for this application process. And just as you're working on pulling all these together, we suggest that you just create a folder in your desktop to aggregate all of these materials together and give them a naming system that allows you to know what they are. So maybe your last name _ W9, last name _ artwork image, right? and keep it really simple for yourself. We also recommend that you have someone from outside of your discipline review your work because that is likely what's going to be happening at the jury application stage. So let's say you're a photographer and you're submitting photographic images, but you want to make sure that someone who is a sculptor or a painting curator at a museum, a gallerist who primarily specializes in audiovisual materials, has the ability to review your work and understand the words and language that you're using. We suggest that you get into the application portal prior to the May 19th deadline. We'll walk you through that just now, but sometimes it can be a little tricky and it takes a little bit of navigating to understand what's being asked of you. So just get in there ahead of time so that you're not in panic mode. And then if you have any technical issues as you're going through the process, there is a support tab inside the portal that allows you to get your question answered. And I'm also available if you have any technical issues. Okay. I'm stopping here for questions about anything that I've just gone over. I'm seeing in the chat, is there a second application date this year or only May 19th? So there's only one application grant call per year, and the deadline is unfortunately quite firm. So May 19th at 9 p.m. is when the deadline for application closes. I'm seeing a question about, is there a link for the list of requirements and the submission calendar? So if you go to the landing page for the Art Bank program on our CAH website, you'll find a list of key links, as well as a link to our tips for grant applicants page, which gives you a much more in-depth rundown of all of the document requirements. And those, yes, are getting dropped in the chat right now. Any other questions I can answer before I pass it along? Okay. I am passing the mic to Ron.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm going to, if you want to stop sharing your screen, Michelle. I can then share mine. All right, so this is the moment where we're going to walk through. Just let me know if you see this because I can't tell once I go into share screen. Looks like we're good to go.
Great.
So this is the part where we'll go through this step by step. And this is a good little guideline that we do for our grant programs and our applicants, just so they can visually see what the portal looks like, how to navigate it, and what steps you're going to encounter. Now, if you're a rookie to this, you might want to snooze a little bit, but maybe you'll get some good tips. But if you're new, this is good because it can get a little confusing at times when working through this system. So we're here to help. So this is the front page of your guide to grants, where you will have to either sign up today, or you'll make an account, or if you already have a login, you can sign in right underneath. So when you sign up today, it's going to populate my emails, of course, but you're going to want to just put your emails, name and number, save, and your account will be created. And you will receive an email notification saying that your account is ready to go. Once ready, go ahead and log in. And it's actually, this is my dummy account, so I just use a Gmail. One second. Go ahead and log in. About that, I copied and pasted the wrong password. I have so many passwords, it's crazy. Gmail. All right, here we go. So you'll get to your welcome page. To continue, you can just hit continue here. And you can start your application with the new application. If you've already started your application and you saved it and you come back, your application will be found under this tab, My Open Applications. But since we're kind of starting this as a new applicant, I'm just going to go ahead and click on over here, the green button, New Application. And then the system will be pulling up all of the available grants that you can apply to at the moment. So you'll see a few. Right now, you'll see the Art Bank, General Operating Support, and Public Art Communities Grant, which is another public art grant that we provide. But we're going to do individuals. Once you click on individuals, you just have to answer these simple eligibility questions. Have you been a resident within 50 miles of District of Columbia? You just say yes. Have you read the guidelines? This is very important. Our guidelines are created to help you. I know it's like a 14-page document, but really, if you do have time, go through that document because it will really give you a better sense of what you need and the application and just remind you as you go through. So if you did, or if you didn't, just say yes. If you say no to any of these questions, you will not be eligible. And you have a social security number, of course. Congratulations, I'm eligible. You want to hit save and continue. To continue, you're going to be asked these two simple questions. And this is just information that we pull from the back end across our grants. So we understand if you're a new grantee, if you've applied before. So I'm going to say no, I have not received a grant in the last 5 years. And this is an important one. If you're a continuing applicant, it's important for us to know if your address changed in the last 12 months since your award last year, because there's an entire process that we have to go through to make sure you're awarded to get you updated in the system once you are. So that just gives us a heads up that you changed your address. If you move forward to award, we know that we're going to have to work with you just a little bit extra paperwork to get your address updated in the system. So I'm just going to say no and hit save and continue. This is the request page. So this just has all of the information of your application. Name, last name. This first one, are you doing business as someone else? So you can be an individual. You might be doing business under another name or your artistic name, but we need to know what that is. But if not, just hit not applicable. Some artists use their name or they use another name. We just need to capture that so we know what is on your W-9 and how we should label your artwork as a professional artist. So I'm just going to go through. You're just going to go through, type in all of your first name, middle name, last name. If you have a suffix, your street address. I'm going to kind of just quickly go through here. Your applicant city, your applicant state, applicant zip code. I'm going to say I'm in Ward 8 because that's where our agency is located. I can put a number in. I don't need to put a secondary number. This is where you need to add your applicant login. So the same email that you signed up with. I don't have a secondary email. I can add my website. And this is where you get into sort of a applicant discipline. And this just kind of helps us narrow down what type of artist you are or how you self-identify yourself as an artist. So as you can see, we have many options here. You can say, you know, we have a lot of humanities. That is just the general. Can I just see it? Visual artists. Visual arts. And then you can also self-identify yourself as another type of activity. And I'm just going to say none of the above at the moment. Now, this is important too. This is so we can indicate if you're a first-time applicant. You can say no. You do have to put in your social security number. And I know a lot of people are nervous about entering their social security number, but I've been here for over 10 years and we've never had any issues with the system. It's very safe. I was talking with another applicant online through email, and I'm going to be talking with the team to see if it's possible that we can encrypt that line. So when you enter the information, it can be encrypted, but we will still get it on the back end just for added safety. But for now, we have to add your social security number. Now, this is where I would actually just save for a moment. And what it did is push me into the other tab. When working through this program, you really have to save as you are working through it. If you step away from your computer for more than 10, 15 minutes, it will most likely bump you out. And if you did not save, you'll lose all the information that you just put in. So as you're entering, just randomly hit save, go back to the screen that you were in and continue working. This is also one of our tips, is to not start the application when you don't have everything written and ready to go. It's really important in this application to have a very strong artist statement and impact statement. That's really what drives with your art, your application, and what the jurors find out about you. So it's really important to maybe open up a Word or a page document, finalize your artist statement, finalize your impact statement, get it looked at, double check it for spelling in the program. And that way, when you're doing the application, all you have to do is copy and paste it right in there. And we say that because sometimes we have applicants who just start writing their statement in the block. And then that can get confusing because it might not be edited correctly, not be the way you want it, or you'll lose it if you start writing, step away, and it's no longer saved. So we really recommend having it ready to go when you start the application. Will make your application go a lot smoother. So I'm just going to say that I already have my statement ready. I have my impact statement ready to go. And I hit save and continue. Now, again, maybe at this point I want to quit. I want to sign out. When I log back in, I'm going to just want to go over here to the left and click on my open applications, and you'll see my application right there. Then you'll just want to hit edit, and it will take you back to the first page. So what you can do up here at the top is just go back to the page you were on, or if you wanted to, you know, save and check through again, but you can just hit work samples is where I stopped. So this is where a lot of times it gets very confusing for applicants, especially first time, because the system is not very user-friendly sometimes at this point. In the application portal, you have a media library. And that's where you're going to be basically uploading all of your images, all of the 3 images that you're going to want to add to this application. To begin that, what you're going to want to do is attach media from library. If you want to click that. Where is the, oh, where is the, Does it allow me to from here? Hold on.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the media library so you can add images. Oh,
Yeah, that was it right there.
that
That
was
you
it.
clicked into it.
So
Yeah, attach media from media library.
what you're going to want to do actually, when you're at the work samples upload page, you're going to want to come over here and click on my media library. So you're going to exit the application if you don't have images already updated. So for instance, if you applied, is the fellowship open yet? No. But
Not
if you have artwork from a previous application that is still available sale and you want to add it, then you can add it there quickly. But if you have no media in your library or you want to add 3 new artworks, you're going to want to exit application and click on my media library. And then what you're going to want to do is choose your file. I'm just going to quickly go into my massive art bank collection. These are all the images of our collection, all 3,000. And I'm going to select, I'm saying, okay, I want to sell this artwork. And I'm going to hit submit. Now you'll see that it's not there. Wait till it's successfully added. And then you can go back up, click on my media library, and it's there. So do that for the 3 images that you want. Get them in your media library. Go back to your open application. Edit. Up here at the top, view application overview request. Click on work sample as it uploads. So just because you entered it into the media library, that does not mean that is attached to your grant application because you could be applying to multiple grants. So you have to tell which image you added that you want in this specific application. So you're going to want to come back and say attach media from library, and it's going to open up. You see the pop-up screen. It's going to open up your media viewer, and you're going to click on over here on the left. You're going to want to click file. And then you're like, okay, I want to add this one. And I want to add this one. And then close. And you see that they are now added to your application. And that's the easy way. So I hope that made sense. You just open up your attached media library after you've already added them. And you're going to click on the title and it will populate. At this point, for each image, you've got to click to update the media file information. This is also very helpful. It's almost like a repeat of your image list that you have to upload, but it gives a quick little overview in the jury panel side. When they're looking at the image, they'll have the information there so they don't have to open up a separate image file. So you're going to want to add the title. You're going to want to add the media type, painting. This is oil. The year created, 2024. No edition number because it's not a photograph. The retail price. So this is what you're wanting to sell. So this artwork is for $6,500. Artwork dimensions, 24 by 36 is just a sample. And then a little description. This could be the opportunity in this little box. You can just repeat, it's an oil painting from a specific series, or you can really dive in to what specifically prompted this piece. What does it mean? Is it part of a series? Was it a part of a special event? This is information that you can give the jurors that gives a little more context to what this piece was about, if that makes sense. So you want to use that opportunity in the description to just talk about what it is, this painting, what it came from, maybe talk about the special material that was used, maybe talk about the special story that it talks about or touches on. After you do that, you just hit save and it will save there. Now, see what happened? This application portal has glitches and we know this, and we've worked diligently to try to fix these all the time. If I hit refresh, you'll notice that 2 of my media files dropped. Sometimes this happens. You're just going to want to go back into your media, attach them again. And we don't know why this happened. We always are working with our contractor to fix these little errors. But Michelle, this might be something we can ask him, because I've had this done, this happened previously. So you see that they're back. So don't panic. For some reason, things glitch. So I'm going to go back into, this was already filled out from a previous application. But if not, I needed to fill that out. Again, it's dropping it's dropping work. So I don't know why that's happening. We might need to
Yeah, that's
put
a
a
new
ticket
one.
in.
We'll put a ticket in.
We got to put a ticket for that. So just keep making sure. We do apologize. Maybe it'll be fixed by time you start. I'm going to click to update to make sure I have everything. So I already have everything because I've done it with a previous application before. So there they are. They're still there. So the 3 are still there. So at this point, I say save. Every time you do a big step, save. Go back to my open applications, click on edit again, and up at the top, go back to your work samples. They're still there, still looking lovely. Now, further down is your required documents. These are what Michelle was talking about. Your artist resume, your image list, your statement of cert, clean hands, W-9, copyright form, and proof of residency. Now, don't panic. We only see these documents. The only documents that the jury sees on their side when they log in is the resume and the identification list. They don't see anything else. All of these are hidden from them, and it's just for our use if you are awarded, so we can push forward with your application on day 1. So I'm just going to choose a PDF randomly on my desktop. Hopefully you'll be a little bit more organized than I am. We really recommend, if you have the capability, please provide us with a PDF. It's universal along Macs and IBMs for the jurors. It also is beneficial because and it's okay if you upload a Word document, that's totally fine. But if you upload a Word document, the jury actually has to download it to their computer and then open it up and see it. The PDF will just be in a pop-up, so they don't have to download it. So that's just something to think about. If you can convert to a PDF, please do. It just makes it a little bit easier, and you won't have any issues with the jury downloading documents to your application. But we do not accept pages. So please do not submit Apple programs, only Microsoft Word or PDF, Ali PDF.
Ron, I'm giving you a 4-minute warning until our end.
Okay, I'm actually almost done.
Awesome.
Am I going too long? I'm sorry.
No, you're great. I'm just giving you time.
What I do want to say too is this is an opportunity for me because I've been here for a very long time. When you're submitting images, please submit the highest res that you can to show the details. And do not, and I repeat, we see this all the time, please do not heavily Photoshop your work. It gets very difficult, and the jurors remember. They're looking at your images on the screen. So if you've heightened things in Photoshop, or you've heightened things to make it look crisper or cleaner, I will tell you, they will know. Constantly through the jury process, when we bring in pieces, they're like, this does not look like the application. And they pull up the application and they will notice those differences. So try to stay as true you can to the piece you have. And we know different lighting does different things. And I'm only really talking about really high saturation on things. So just be careful with the Photoshop because it can actually be detrimental to your application where they might like it at that high intensity, but when you bring it in, it's a little duller and it doesn't look as good. So that's just a little highlight that I would like to give as just an advice. So after you have all of your photos in, all of your required documents in, you want to hit save and continue. This is the opportunity. You're going to have like 2 times to double check this. They're not kidding. So they want to make sure that you have your application right. So you're going to want to go through, double check everything is there. All your images are there. All of your documents are there. Submit application. It went through. I'm good to go. So what I do is now I have to electronically signature. I scroll down to the bottom, type in your name, type in your initials, however you want, hit ready to submit, and then submit. You will receive an email that lets you know that your application was submitted. If you submit your application and you're like, oh no, I messed up, I didn't put the right images, reach out to Michelle or me. We can unsubmit your application on the back end and you can go in and change it to resubmit it. So just let us know. So now you're not going to want to do that at the last minute on Friday. But if you submit it early and you realize that you messed up an application document, just let us know. We can help you. But I hope this was helpful and I'm happy to answer any questions.
There's just one question in the chat right now. Is there anywhere we can see a sample of a good impact statement? We don't have any samples available on our website. I'll say that a great impact statement describes your relationship, your strong relationship or your burgeoning relationship, your beginning relationship with the DC Arts community through a range of ways in. So maybe you're a longtime resident. Maybe you've been volunteering for a certain arts organization for some time, or you're on the board of X arts organization. You may describe some activities some public art activities that you have attended or have been invested in over the years. Or you might describe how your artwork itself on a thematically represents your relationship to DC. There's a range of ways in, but triangulating yourself across a few different relationship points into DC is helpful. Any other questions? I'm going to just share this page here. Is there anywhere we can see? Oh, I already said that one. There's one more. Okay, so this is just one final page. Again, the Art Bank grant program closes on May 19th at 9 p.m. And I'm just flagging a couple other grant line opportunities for artists and curators. The Art Exhibition Curatorial Program is a grant line I run that opens next week and closes in late June, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about that further. If you have any interest in being a panelist to review any of CAH's grant applications, you can sign up to be a review panelist. And again, there's a range of ways that you can get assistance from us. I am putting my email and Ron's email here and my phone number for you to take note of. And again, I'm happy to support you through this application process. Thank you so much for an hour and a half of your Tuesday. I hope this was helpful. Again, this recording is going to be available to you via email, and we'll put it on our the landing page for the Art Bank program shortly. Thank you so much, and please feel free to stay on if you have any burning remaining personal questions related to your application materials. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. I'm going to stop recording.